We're going to take our audience now live to Sydney, where Opposition Leader Peter Dutton is addressing a Liberal Party rally in support of the Bennelong, Parramatta and Reid campaigns.
I promise you that our work in this area did not stop when we defeated The Voice, which would have done nothing for Indigenous Australians. And Jacinta Price is going to go through every dollar in every program to make sure that we cut the waste and we prioritise housing, education and health outcomes for Indigenous Australians and better outcomes for all Australians living in regional areas. And that is what Jacinta is committed to doing.
Agree. Good thing.
My friends, we're going to grow a stronger regional Australia because many of you have a heritage which is based through generations of hard work in regional areas. Many of you have family and friends who are working hard on the land today, and we are a party for them. We're going to make sure that we build our mining industry, not destroy it. We're going to make sure that we build our agricultural and manufacturing powerhouses to what they once were, because that will provide the funding not just to build stronger and sustainable communities and a stronger economy. It will help underpin our investment in health, in roads, in infrastructure, in education and in policing.
Cool. I agree with all that. But I would have added that I'll make sure when we do mining that we do it right for the environment, right? And we make things fair for the miners when it comes to pricing. So we do it right and then we price it right. So we make sure we get it right. That's the only extra thing I'll do. And so we can also get the funding to do all the other sectors in a similar way.
And because it's in our DNA, we want to keep Australians safe.
And because we stick to our guns of when we want to go green, we become green. And we make sure we change all areas as soon as we can, as quick as we can, to make this happen and not become a country of hypocrites.
The Albanese government has failed, as I mentioned earlier, on this core principle objective of any government. It is an essential selection criteria that when the Australian people cast their vote, they're voting for somebody who can keep them safe in good times and in bad.
We will keep them safe by making a good constitution, a constitution that would make them so hard for previously new leaders to ever change things, so we don't get a previous problem like previous leaders did. We will step up for once and update things for everybody, so that way we have our standards and priorities set, so we never fall back or have to worry, as we'll have plenty and more than we need for the standard priorities of freedom of speech and teaching the people how to also have dangerous things around them and not be afraid and use them.
The Minister has demonstrated time and again that he has failed that primary and principal obligation, that promise that he gave to Australians. And there is no end in sight to his incompetence. This government has failed to deter people smugglers. We know under an Albanese-backed government that the borders would reopen and children would go back into detention. We know that they've weakened our Defence Force because they've withdrawn money from the men and women who wear our uniform at a time when we should be investing more into defence. And they've allowed crime to run rampant on our streets.
Whenever there is an area that has a problem, you do not defund. You'd only make the problem worse unless you have a plan to defund, to take over, like a business. Businesses set up things and make things happen so another business can't have money. It's best that you do the right area to where you use knowledge and funding to fix a problem, and make sure that you speak to the people and hit all the right areas yourself. If there's a problem, you come to me and I'll make sure that I see the right person to fix it. If not, I'll do it myself.
Why I first announced that a coalition government would legislate mandatory minimum sentences of 6 years imprisonment for acts of terrorism and 12 months imprisonment for the public display of terrorist symbols.
When it comes to terrorism, I will make sure that anyone that gets classed as a terrorist has to be publicly caught through the internet. It doesn't have to be on TV, it's probably best not to. Only for people who need to see, and if it gets out of hand, it can get on TV if it needs to be. But when it comes to people who are classed as terrorists, all information to the people should be revealed of their life, all the things that they've seen, that they declare that person as a terrorist. And if you don't do that and hide information where people, the terrorists themselves or their family can't see this information, then you might be a terrorist yourself. And so we're going to make sure that when we declare people as terrorists, that we'll show you all the information that we have is why we declared that information.
These are key priorities of a coalition government. We will stop anti-Semitism in our country. We will stop those racist acts, I promise you, and I promise the Jewish community that we will do that.
We will stop racist acts as we'll let them speak, as we like to hear them speak, so we can find out who they really are. And then we'll show them who they are and allow everyone to see who they are and judge them. And if they believe that they're a good person, then there's nothing to worry about. But we'll find out the truth as we reveal.
But we will drill down into a few of these priorities, which are, I think, especially relevant for people in the seats of Bennelong, Parramatta and Reid. Friends, to escape the clutches of the cost of living crisis, we must bring down inflation. Inflation is just another form of taxation.
Inflation always gets caused because we don't have our priorities straight. I've talked about before that we're going to get our priorities straight, and when I fix that area, it's going to fix inflation. Inflation only happens in countries where it gets bad, as they didn't fix their priority areas of plenty, and their priority areas become very expensive. And so people really suffer through inflation. Other than that, when it comes to bonus things and extra things, when it comes to inflation on them, that's because we all allow things to happen and willing to pay, or the stock is down and so many people can only get it, and you expect that to be expensive. So we get the main priority straight, we'll nearly eliminate inflation when it comes to you'll never have to worry about not having a place or starve. Isn't that terrific?
Everything costs more. Inflation reduces the purchasing power of your paycheck.
As we will make sure our priorities are done by us.
And the only way to reduce inflation is by having an economically responsible government that reins in wasteful spending. And that is what a coalition government will do. Now,
I will make sure that I will use my mind and connection first before I make a decision, definitely a decision when it comes to finance.
I don't mean to be controversial today, but I want to ask you this question, and if it's definitive, if the answer is definitive in your mind, then please answer accordingly. But is your life better today? Have you been finding it easier to wake up in the morning knowing that 36,000 new public servants have been employed in Canberra? Can you say, you answered that very well.
Well, so far, I don't feel safe where I am. No matter how many police officers there is now, they don't help my situation. So, that's my opinion.
I'd say, can you say that our country is more united today than it was 2.5 years ago? There is a better way. There is a much better way. We are going to help the Australian people in a way that they haven't seen over the course of the last 2.5 years with the government which has worked against them. We're going to provide enormous support to young people to get into housing. I feel incredibly passionate about this because my own story is similar to yours. I had to work hard from a working class family to provide the deposit to buy a house. I couldn't do that as a 19-year-old in the economy today. I don't want a generation of young Australians to give...
If you don't have love and caring people, you would never be able to do that at that age. You wouldn't have to save, you see. So when you have love and caring people, or you're in a family that doesn't suffer for money, you get to have that opportunity. But if you blow that opportunity, which a lot of people do in that area where they'd be able to stay and they didn't go through anything and they had all these opportunities and they took them, then you'll end up having a beautiful life.
up the dream of home ownership.
But all the rest, if you go through all the rest, which is most people go through, struggles of lives, it's hard to save and it's fairly hard to put food on the table or get the clothes you need for school or things you need for school or things they need to hang out, the camps and all the basics. You will never achieve what he achieved as he didn't have really love around him.
And so we've announced a $5 billion...
In fact, these people that have love are the ones that smile in your face sometimes and get brought up in these type of worlds where they get all the opportunities and they still want to take it from all yous and want yous to fix it. Bit of a circle there, isn't it?
Fund to provide support to local councils to build infrastructure, to make sure that we can provide additional supply, which is what's required, given the government has brought in 1.8 million people over the course of a 5-year period they're proposing, but 1 million people over the last 2 years, which is a record in our country. We will provide extra support to...
When you have right wisdoms and plenty of plenty, the more you bring in, the stronger you can become. And the ones you bring in, if you can educate them as they're bringing in, the stronger you can become. If you can't educate them, you might have to get weak as you don't have rules and things will get out of control and become worse. So if things are coming worse, that's because you haven't got the priority rules or the education in the right areas to thrive. But if you get it right, and as history shows you and as small groups show you, the more you can get it right and have people join your group, your soul members, as you can say, they're willing to be like you and Australian, they like your rules and do the right steps, the more you'll thrive until you run out of land or land you can't thrive on. But we're at a place where we can actually thrive for hundreds of years still and have billions of more people on this planet if you do a system right, with plenty of plenty and integrate that. Means you can't just have sections of, you got to integrate it and have your trees and your food and everything, plus farmers off in farmer areas and stuff like that, to make all that happen.
We will provide extra support to help young people achieve the dream of home ownership again.
And to achieve a lot of things, you just got to give more freedom and rights to a lot of people. Who's usually the key, and do the right laws and give them the right freedom that they deserve to have with their education they got. And so we educate them.
And only a coalition government can do that. We are going to stop reckless spending, not just on extra public service.
I'm going to leave the rest in a minute because I don't want to do the whole clip.
We are going to make sure that we can bring downward pressure on inflation, because that is the best way in which we can help young families who are struggling with mortgages now, but to help young people get into home ownership as well. Interest rates.
And when it comes to the rest, the buildings and all the rest of the stuff, and electricity, sorry, cutting you off there, beat it up. When it comes to all the rest and electricity and all that kind of stuff, I've already spoken all about that, and so I don't think I need to speak anymore. When it comes to how I would present a similar thing if I was in Peter Dutton's position and had to speak those type of words, and to go to motivate, I would have just added a little extra if it was myself, and perhaps later on he might have to do that as he's in a position and a badge to do changes. If you never get a position and a badge to do changes, you're never able to mean anything. So have a good one, everybody. If you want to see the rest, check out Sky News Australia. See you later.